All right, welcome to another edition of Beginner Breakdown. I am your host, Mike Kummer, and today we'll be going over the games of Eric Hoffner. He was a very novice beginner not too long ago, but he's been coming up to the club, playing in the Friday Action Quads, playing in tournaments whenever he can, and he also partakes in the ladder competition. So these are 3 games from the ladder. He's raised his rating about 300 points in the last few months just by playing a lot. And here we go. In his first game, he has white against Dr. Eden. All right, so he starts out E4. All right, black counters with E5, very standard stuff. Brings out the knight to F3 to attack the E pawn. So black counters, knight to C6 to protect it. And now white plays bishop to C4, aiming at this F7 square. Okay, and now black makes a mistake. And you're probably going to say, Mike, this knight F6 is not a mistake. But it is a mistake. If you're a beginner and you don't know the theory, it's a mistake. All right, because it allows this knight to play G5. So if you were one of my students and you play the move knight to F6, I would be very, very angry. Okay, so try not to play knight F6 in this position because it allows white to go into this fried liver attack. The 3 moves you should be thinking about in this position, which you probably see very often, you think it's F6? No, don't play F6 in this position. Play bishop to C5, okay, bishop to E7, or even H6. The move at H6, I mean, it looks kind of funny, but now nothing can hop to G5, and also you don't have to worry about that back row checkmate later on in the game, okay? So after bishop C4, those are the 3 moves you should be thinking about. Now the move knight F6, if you know the theory, you can play it. But since you don't know the theory, I would not play it. So now you just allowed him play knight to G5, and now you're in a lot of trouble here, okay? You don't want to be in a lot of trouble, all right? So now, what's the only move black can make to stop my knight or my bishop from coming in and getting all the pain on you?
D5.
Yes. All right, black plays the move D5. See how it cuts the... All right, we're giving out candy tonight, so sorry for the players at home. Just if you get the right answer, just buy yourself a bag and eat one if you get the right answer, okay? All right, but D5, it cuts off the connection between the bishop and F7, okay? So now white takes the pawn, okay? And remember, we don't want to take with the bishop because white is on the attack. When we're on the attack, we don't want to trade pieces, right? So we take with the pawn, and so they took something of mine, I'm going to take it back. Knight takes D5. All right, and now if you're brave and you're strong, you want to go into the fried liver attack. So, Keith, this is your chance to get a piece of candy. What would you play to go into the fried liver attack here? Have you seen this? It's a sacrifice. Jim, how do you go into the fried liver attack? Peter?
Take the pawn.
Take the pawn. Knight takes F7, forking the queen and the rook. Obviously, the king can take, all right? Because kings can capture unprotected pieces, all right? So king, no candy, no candy. That's too easy. All right, so king takes F7. All right, so this knight is in a pin, and we're down a piece. So we want to try to get this knight back. How would we go about attacking this knight here? Remember, we don't want to capture pin pieces. We want to attack them.
Queen to F3.
Queen to F3, check. All right, Keith is on the board. All right, good job, Keith. All right, so queen F3, check. So the king could be really weak and go back home where he thinks he's safe. But then we would take the knight with our bishop, because we don't want to trade queens in this position. So we take with the bishop, and now we're threatening checkmate. Queen to f. So if he plays a random move, queen to f7, checkmate, game over. All right, so that didn't last long. All right, so he decides he's going to march the king closer to all our attacking pieces. Not good idea. We'd rather be safe in a castle. All right, so now we have two players attacking the knight, but he's got two defenders. So we don't want to take the knight here, okay? We want to keep attacking this pinned piece. So everybody at home knows the answer. Knight to c3. All right, get another attacker. So now black has a couple different ways he can play. He could play knight back to e7, okay? And then white would castle. He would get another defender here. Then we swing our rook over, and now we have another attacker of the pawn. And eventually we'll get something in like d4, just attack the pin piece, and black is just going to fold, okay? He can't take the pressure, okay? But Dr. Eden decides not to play that way. He decides to defend it and attack, knight to b4. Notice that's the only knight that can go to b4. If I try to put that knight, it's check, okay? So this is the only knight that can go to b4. If I was playing white in this position, I would just castle, okay? But he's like, I don't even care. All right, you're attacking c2. Who cares? I don't even know what he plays. He plays a3. Get out of here. All right? Not recommended. All right? Castle. Get safe, okay? So then he's like, all right, check. King here. All right, so white wants black to take his rook because he thinks he's going to get all these good checks or maybe a discovery or something good, okay? So now black's thinking, after check, why is he letting me do all this? Why is he just giving me a rook for free? So he decides, I'm not going to take the rook, all right? But, you know, you're down so much. Well, I mean, actually, at this position, black is up a piece. I mean, you already hopped your knight down here. You might as well just go for it. And, I mean, black may still have the advantage here. Instead, I guess he gets a little scared of the attack, so he decides, oh, man, I got to do something about this. So how do you think he defends this knight here? What would be the best way to defend the knight here? C6. All right. Good job, Jim. So you get Milky Way. All right, good. All right, C6. All right, but now he's like, okay, thanks for the knight. All right, so what Dr. Eden really should have thought about was in this position. Okay. Well, I could just go back to E7 and protect, and then play C6 after castle, right? Okay, or if I'm going to go down to B4 and threaten check and win your rook, and then I just let you do it, right? You got to just go for it then and just say, do your best, right? Do your worst, hopefully, so I win the game. But if you don't take that, you just gave him a knight for free, okay? And now white is just crushing black, and black isn't going to last much longer. So everybody understand that? All right, so now it's white to move, or actually it's black to move after king takes. So he brings his bishop out. That really didn't do anything to help him out with this situation, but it did activate his rook, all right? So now he plays d4, attacks the bishop and attacks the pawn. All right, so rook to f8 attacks the queen. And now white gets excited. Because what are you trying to look for in chess? Captures and checks. Forcing moves. Captures and checks, okay? Obviously, we can capture the rook, but that's no good. We can capture the bishop, but that's no good. So, and obviously we don't want to capture a pinned piece, right? No reason to it. Okay, so then we see a check. Queen to g4, check, all right? Sounds good to me. King here, guess what? I see another check. Might as well play it. Boom. All right, rook f7. Guess what? I see another check. All right, what do you think is a really good check in this position? Queen.
Bishop to G5.
Bishop to g5. All right, this queen's already doing a lot. Bishop g5. Fork. Or skewer, or whatever you want to call it. Good move. How about it? And now he just gives up. He's like, oh, I give up. Oh, you're too good. You're too good. All right. How would he go about closing the deal here? Because I don't know. Queen takes. King takes. Bishop takes. It looks like you're up a little bit. But it's all good. You're up a rook here. So now Eric plays black against a 1700, Matt Flint, okay? Here we go. So white plays e4, followed by d6, d4, knight f6. White protects the e-pawn with knight to c3, g6. And now bishop to g5, allowing h6. So bishop to g7, he decides not to punish white for his mistake. So queen to d2. So he's just screaming, like play h6 and break up my battery here, okay? All right, so he doesn't. He plays c5, okay? You can learn something from this too, Ron. So in this position, all right, so obviously white could play pawn takes, queen takes, check, king takes. But now white won't have any kind of checkmate ideas, okay? And when he plays the perk, we want to checkmate him, right? Okay. So in this position, we want to play d5, all right? And that, whenever he tries to make a break either with e5 or c5, we want to play d5. And that cuts out the center, all right? That way, he'll have no counterplay in the center, and we can attack on the wings, okay? And then this bishop, after we play the move f3, eventually, let's say he plays there, his bishop has nowhere to go, okay? And we're crushing him, okay? Makes sense? But instead, he just decides to defend it. Knight f3, not good, okay? So now castles. Black obviously needs to take this pawn. So bishop to c4, pins the pawn. And now, guess who got the play now? The bishop, okay? Because the knight's on f3. Instead of a pawn, it gives the bishop something to do, okay? We could have just made that bishop weak forever if our pawn was on f3, okay? But now he's got something to do. So obviously, after bishop to h6, he'll take the knight, all right, because that bishop wasn't doing much. So now, if you're playing white, what should you do? He just took my knight. Make it simple, right? He just took my piece, I'll take it. A lot of beginners try to make things complicated unnecessarily, right? All right, he took your knight, just take it back, okay? But he decides he'll take here, which allows black to do what's called an intermezzo, okay? Like he wants to take this, but he can make a move in between that's actually good. When white tried the intermezzo, it was no good. He was expecting king takes and then pawn takes, okay? But after takes and takes, he'll take this pawn, okay? So now I don't want to lose my rook, so I play rook to g1, king takes, rook takes, okay? And now white is down a pawn. Now a lot of people at home might say, oh, white has adequate compensation for that pawn because this G file is open. But this black pawn is pretty strong. It's protected, well, 3 times. So we'll have to make him pay for that, okay? So now being down a pawn, white's going to have to prove that it's worth having this G file open. All right, so now he takes, queen takes, knight's in a pin, so we'll have to watch out for that. Knight c6 attacks the queen, queen to e3, gets it back on this diagonal. All right, a6. So now white's got to be thinking, why did he do that, right? So he wants to play b5, b4, and get a pawn push on. All right, so white decides, I don't care. I'm going to castle right into the danger, okay? So after b5, bishop b3, and it turns out he's pretty safe in this castle. So black goes to e5, eyeing the c4 square. So white attacks it with f4. So black goes there. So now this bishop really doesn't have much going on for it. My queen's attacked, so we might as well just take it. Take back, and now it's white's turn, okay? So now white has a couple different moves he should be considering here. What do you think? So notice, this pawn is in a pin. This pawn is in a pin. Rook, queen, okay? So let's start attacking those pin pieces, all right? e5, all right. So now the knight's got to move somewhere. So he goes to h5, okay? So white could just press on, right? So he attacked this one pin piece. He can just attack another, okay? But instead he decides, I'm just going to take the pawn. So he takes back. Now keep in mind, white is down a pawn here. All right? So if he gets his pawn back, they're just even. So maybe he thought he doesn't have a, I would just keep attacking this pawn, okay? But instead he decides I can win this pawn back right now. So I'm going to, all right? So sees a check, so he plays a check. Check. Queen to f6. And now, no matter what, black is going to trade queens. If white takes this pawn, how does black force a queen trade here? f4. Very good. Queen takes f4, check. Okay. If he takes this way, guess what? I'm just going to take your queen, okay?
You're not going to take on f4 still?
I'm joking. Yeah, I was getting to it. Yeah, so yeah, he'll be like really smart. He'll just take check, and then we'll get it. All right. So he's like, oh, I don't want you to take f4. So he's just like, queen takes, check. So knight takes f6, c around it. And then rook takes d6. So now we're in an endgame, okay? So now things have drastically changed, all right? So when things have drastically changed in a position like this, we need to take a deep breath and just start doing some counting here, okay? And count what's on the board, not what's off of it, okay? So if I was playing white or black, I would be like, okay, we each have 5 pawns, we each have rooks, we each have a knight, okay? How hard is it? My king's in a pin. You know, my rooks are pretty much defenders, all right? So I have to get them activated, okay? And maybe I'm not really that afraid of f5, okay? So, and my pawns are pretty junky, all right? So you have to take stock of the position and realize what's going on, okay? So he decides, I'm going to activate my rook. All right, fair enough. All right, he had to do something. I mean, rook to c8, pretty passive. So maybe rook to e8 is the best move. All right, so now he's like, see how white has 2 isolated pawns, and so does black. But he decides, I'm going to get rid of mine right away. get rid of your weaknesses. That was good. White probably sat back and identified his weakness and like, okay, I'll get rid of it. All right, so check. Who loves that check for black? Who thinks, wow, black is good. He's like, he's checking, he's just crushing now. Boo, boo that check. All right, even though it's check, it doesn't mean it's good. Now, unfortunately, I had a student say, oh man, I'm in check. I better put my knight back on D1 and get out of the check. Don't pin your own pieces, okay? I mean, like, don't hit yourself, don't pin your pieces, okay? You could just play king to D2, and now you got an active king, and he's threatening the rook all of a sudden, okay? So you see that? So that, I mean, I know it's check. I know it's tough to resist playing a check, but it just helps white out, okay? So now rook here attacks the pawn. All right, so pawn takes. Black takes toward the center here. All right, so now rook to c6 attacks the pawn. So he decides, I better defend it. That was good. So now he's trying to remove the defender, try to get this rook off the fourth rank so he can take the pawn. Rook to g4. So now, white could take here and remove the defender, but check. So now black, all of a sudden, has two passed pawns. Pretty scary, right? So don't go into this variation, okay? Makes sense? Because guess what? You're going to get this pawn no matter what. I mean, it's going to be really tough for him to defend it. It's going to be pretty much, it's going to be easier for you to defend this pawn than him defending this pawn. Okay, so we don't want to trade 1-to-1 because it's going to be so much easier for us to get it. So knowing that, we play rook to f2. So now we have two guys piling on this knight on f6, okay? All right, so what do you think black plays? Because I have no idea. What would he play? So two guys are coming down and attacking your knight. It's pretty scary. Any ideas from the audience? Because I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? How would you defend the knight at home? You move it, yeah. Or you just check him again. All right, rook to e6, or rook to e8 check. All right, so but now, so when he plays king to f3, now the rook is no longer attacking the knight. All right, so now rook to h4, he keeps it on the fourth rank. All right. So now I bet people think they see a tactic here. Because I think I see a tactic, but I really don't. So I slam king to g3. I mean, I slam it. Look at what I just did. I attacked the rook, an undefended piece, and a discovered attack on the knight.
Mike, what about rook takes f6?
What? Well, let's do my thing first. What does black play to stop this? Right. It's black to, oh. So knight check, lose, well, come on. So that's a way to get out of it. Maybe. Yeah, I guess I take, and then I eat all your pawns. All right, so that's one way to get out of it. See if the computer has something a little bit better. Well, it likes just taking. Well, the computer's dumb. All right. So forget the computer. All right. So what I was looking at is if I play king to g3. So knight to e4 seems to work, or you can just check. All right. And then repeat the position. All right. But yeah, the Jonathan's like, oh, I see a tactic. I see a tactic. All right. So after rook to h4, let's see if it works. So he's like, rook takes f6. And now I really am threatening king to g3 check. All right. And it looks like it's going to work because oh, devastation. Devastation. It doesn't work because the king can be the lone defender. Okay? But it was a good try, though. Such a good try. So sometimes you think there's so many tactics in chess, but there just aren't any. So it's a bummer, isn't it? It's a bummer. You think you have everything going for you. And yeah, so they did the move that I suggested that I would have slammed. But it gives it 0.000 because he just plays check and everything's good. So he's like, all right, there's no tactics. I'm just going to take your pawn. And I got an A pawn, and I'm just going to beat you like that, okay? So sometimes simplicity is the best. All right. So he just puts his piece where, he can take it. So he does, okay, I'll take it. So he takes a kind of a curious way. He takes with the rook because he thinks I'm gonna check you so bad that I'm gonna win this rook. So rook here, rook check, king to g2, and now black decides, unfortunately, to go into a losing endgame here. I mean, he's got to see. How am I going to stop a4, a5, a6, a7, a8? And you're like, Mike, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves. I got. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. I got plenty of time to figure it out. But do you? Well, that check, that helped a lot. All right. So rook over, and now he's like, okay, stop it. I dare you. Stop it. Well, I got my own pass pawn. All right. But notice the difference. My king can stop it. Your king, nowhere to be found. A5, he's going. I'm not joking. A6. Uh-oh, okay, well, good luck ever getting to A7. Oh, check, king over, and now A7. So I'm one square away. That didn't really take too much time, right? I'm so close now. So now, black decides to hide from any kind of check, okay? But now we get H4 check. So king back to f6. So we don't want, well, yeah, why trade this pawn for that, right? So he decides to be funny the way he gets a pass. So b4. So black doesn't even know about en passant. So he plays check, king up. This is not checkmate, unfortunately. So king over, and now just keep pushing that b pawn, and game's over. This last game, even though it doesn't take much time, it's the importance of when you have a chance to win a game. If you have a chance for a tactic, you gotta strike, okay? You don't want to be messing around, okay? Because the tactics might not last very long. So in this game, Eric has the white pieces again. We can flip the board. And white plays e4, c5. So this is the Sicilian. Knight f3, d6, allowing the check, but it's not very good. So white plays c3, going into the c3 Sicilian. Knight f6 attacks the pawn. So white thinks he's like really good. And he's like, I guess he probably saw this, somebody showed it to him, so he's like, oh, I just played my bishop to e2. Aren't I like so fancy? So he's hoping that black takes e4. Okay? Why is that just a double question mark? All right, everybody's going to get a piece of candy. All right, so hopefully at home you'll get a piece of candy for this too. All right, so white's not an idiot. He didn't just give his pawn up for nothing. Look, this is how tactics arise in chess. You have a piece, you know, in your territory, undefended. So if we can attack this and possibly a very strong piece, and we can somehow freeze the piece, we can win. So we can all shout it out. Queen to a4 check. Congratulations, everybody. Keith, Bess, Peter, and Jim. The only one, John, didn't get it. Queen to a4 check.
Thousands of people here.
All right. So queen to a4 check. All right. So black, I guess, saw it. So he's like, all right, e6. So white castles, bishop e7. So black understands he can't take the pawn, so he'll just develop normally. So white decided he would be really cool and trick him, but now his bishop is on e2, not doing squat, okay? So now he plays e5. So black should just take it, which he does. Now he takes, and now black got castled, and it's move 7. So both are playing pretty strong, right? So far, so good. So white plays d4. So all we have to do is calculate our captures here. So we could trade, this wing pawn. Obviously, we're not trading it for a center pawn because pawn takes, and then he gets it back. But look at what we just did. We gave him an isolated d pawn. So when the pawns are isolated, no pawns can protect them. Now we can just pile up and attack this pawn. Eventually, he'll probably have to push it or something. But, well, we don't want to play knight to c6 here. But we have all day to try and attack it, Rook d8. And we got a lot of different ways to attack it, okay? So that's what I would do. I would give him a weakness, and an isolated pawn is a weakness. All right, but unfortunately, black has other ideas. He plays queen to c7 right away, hoping that he takes the pawn. So I just got your knight, buddy, all right? So white decides not to voluntarily remove the defender. And now he plays a tactic. All right, bishop, knight, queen, all in the same line. Scary. So if black would skip a move, like play a6, what would we play as white here? Very good. We wouldn't play knight takes pawn or nothing. Knight to g6. Once it protects the bishop, and after the queen moves, we take the rook. Sound good? All right, so he's like, all right, I got to get out of this diagonal. So queen to b6, attacking the pawn. Now the computer says, play knight to c4. It's kind of cool. It attacks my queen and protects the pawn. But, you kind of like your knight here. I do. So forget that. So plays b3 here. Have just pawn protect pawn. That way nobody's got to really babysit the pawn here. Just the a pawn, okay? All right, so now rook to d8. All right, so now this pawn is in a pin. All right. But I guess it could actually take here, and then if rook takes, pawn takes. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So if I was white, I'd probably just get out of there. Maybe with queen to c2 or something. Well, you got to be careful because he's got a lot of attackers on here. So he decides bishop to e3. So now the bishop and queen are all in alignment here. All right, so he goes back to c7. So do you think he just plays back here? No. He plays queen to c2. But look at what happened when he played queen to c2. So if you're really paying attention now at home, right? All right, you got to be looking at what's all on the same files, okay? Like, oh man, I wanted to get off this file because the rook's on that file. So I go here, but look at what's on that file, the queen. So if somehow we get rid of these pawns, guess what? The queens would be attacking each other, okay? So now all you have to do is try to clear out the file, and then queen takes queen, right? So how would we do that? John, I'm banking on you. We want to clear the C file. How would we clear the C file? So, what would we play? Clear the C file. Like if these two pawns get off the C file, queen can come down and take the queen, right? Right. So what moves do you think we should make to try to clear it off? How about pawn takes pawn, okay? You're like, what? It's defended twice. So if we take this way, our dream came true, right? We get the queen. But it's like, I'll just take with the bishop. Horrible. So then how do we make them pay? Yeah, just take it, right? Because the pawn's in a pin, and boom, tactic, okay? So queen to c2. Oh, I just put my queen right in the line. Nope. So pawn takes pawn. All right, so he sees, shucks, my knight's under attack. I can't take this way because rook would take. So I'll just play bishop to f4. So black's like, oh, he protected the knight. Shucks. Well, I got nothing. So this is when you got to strike in chess, all right? So the queen, knight, and bishop, this is the action diagonal now. If only I could put something else on this action diagonal. I could crush them. Like my bishop, right. Bishop to d6. All right. And now, obviously still can't take the pawn. And he can't protect this knight in any way, shape, or form. And if he tries knight to d3 or something, we take, knight takes, queen takes, okay? We get 2 pieces for 1. Sound good? It sounds good to me, right? And if he moves the bishop, we'll just obviously take the knight, right? All right. So those are tactics, and we got to see them attacking through an X-ray. Instead, it's like, well, I'll just take that pawn. That's good. So if you were playing white, let's take a vote, because we got to take it back, right? We have to take it back. Okay. So will we take back with the knight, or will we take back with the queen? Let's take a show of hands. Who wants us to take with the queen? Do we have any takers for the queen? All right, we got one. We got the producer, Ben Simon, with the queen. And now Jim is giving in to peer pressure. He didn't want to be the only one. So now we have 2. All right, so they're both right. So when we take with the knight, what did we just do to ourselves?
Put it in a pin.
We just pinned ourselves again. And so now, what are we supposed to do to pin pieces?
Attack 'em.
All right. So what's black going to play? Attack the pinned piece.
Bishop to b4.
Bishop b4. We have better than bishop to b4. What could be better than bishop to b4?
Knight to d5.
Knight to d5. Fork. All right. Now the computer's like, oh, just take it and lose your queen, because that's the best you got. Computer's playing hope chess. because knight takes check. Where is white just hoping black goes? Like, please go there. Go to h8, yeah. Yeah, and say, your king looks pretty safe in the corner, buddy. And then he's like, oh yeah, oh thanks. And then what does white play to win the game here? Knight takes h7, f7, checkmate, right? All right, so the computer's even in the hope chest at this point because its position's so bad, okay? So knight to d5, obviously if we play bishop to d2, we hang our knight. Makes sense? All right, so, but that's what everybody wanted. So he plays it, all right? So not good, not good. So if you had to guess, do you think black's going to punish white for having this piece in a pin?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely not. A6, okay? Let's not punish this guy at all. All right? So you laugh, but remember, when you have these ideas in chess, pins, got to do it, okay? So bishop to f3, doesn't want him to play b5. That would be catastrophe, right? So knight to d7, knight takes. So now he could take the bishop or he takes the knight. Rook d1 attacks the queen. Queen e8 takes. Queen takes. Rook to d1. Queen back. And knight to a4. Why not? All right, he's threatening the big knight to b6. So he doesn't want knight going to b6. So he plays knight to d7, okay? So this bishop will never get to move, probably. All right, so bishop to c7. Right, just so you can put a guy on d6. It's probably a good as idea as any. So now queen to d3, and yeah, without these tactics, the game doesn't look as interesting now. Bishop f6. Oh, and then there's a tactic. Probably would have missed it. The bishop, the lonely bishop, is just overloaded now. He's protecting the knight and the bishop and the pawn. So bishop takes, queen takes. He decides not to take. Decides to put his bishop there first. And now he gets the fork in and protects. So queen takes, knight takes, and rook over, and he just lets him take and double his pawns. And now you notice, bishop of opposite colors. Always a draw, okay? So takes, and draw. All right, always going to be a draw. You could have some funny positions if I can I'll try one more funny position here. All right, it looks like he's got 2 pawns to none, right? He could just play here, and there's nothing he can do. You see that? It just doesn't matter. As long as he gets his king on the same color square of his bishop, all right, not of the same color, because if he goes here, then checks can happen, and he can remove them. Or you can take free bishops, right. But you see, you want to get your king on the same square as your bishop, and then have the other bishop stop these pawns, and there's nothing you can do. Make sense? All right, so you learned something. Thanks. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you to Eric Hoffner for showing his games. And it's another edition of Beginner Breakdown.